Hi everyone, my name is Emily and I'm the Young Adult Librarian at the Rock Island Public Library. And today I'm bringing you a one-title book talk. This is one of my favorite books for this season and it is called Horrorstör. So in this book, it is set up like a furniture catalog. And you see this kind of, unfold the flap here, you can see a map of this store. And this is a store that is like an IKEA, which is not like a normal store. Like in a normal store, you can go in, you can buy the one thing you're looking for, and then you can pay and you can leave. But with stores like this, you have to go through the whole thing. Like you enter one place, and then you follow a sort of maze throughout the store before you get to the registers, pay, and get out. Now, this particular store has some odd sorts of stories going around about it. People don't really like working at this store. It is called Orsk. It's like a knockoff IKEA. And the reason people don't like this store is strange things happen. Not every day, but most days. Most days people get to work and they find stuff broken. And I don't mean like, a leg fell off a chair or whatever. This is, you'll come into work and in the middle of a display or in the warehouse area, you'll find a sofa that's just been like torn apart. And it'll be full of rainwater and mud and dead leaves, which is weird because there's no leak in the floor, there's no leak in the ceiling, so how did this happen? Another problem with this store is sometimes, you'll be in one of these fake rooms, like this is set up to kind of demonstrate, oh, this is what the furniture would look like in your home. But there's secret doorways. You can see them on the map. There's doorways between departments that staff can use to get from place to place faster, to like help customers. But sometimes you'll go through one of these doorways, and instead of finding the department you were supposed to be going to, there'll be like an empty hallway. And maybe you'll be in that hallway for 5 or 10 minutes. You went down it to see where the heck it goes because there's never been a hallway here before. But as soon as you get out of it, like as soon as you get to another door, open it, and go out back into the store, once you close that door, if you try to go back, and show a coworker, you're not going to be able to find the hallway again. And people will make excuses for this, like, oh, the layout of the store is confusing. Everybody gets lost sometimes. But, this can happen to people even when they've worked there for years. And hallways don't just appear and disappear. Like, everybody knows that, okay, this is kind of unsettling, but, what can I do about it? I'm just going to not think about it too much because I need this job. But the worst thing about working at this store, worse than, the appearing and disappearing hallways and having to clean up mysteriously destroyed furniture, is most days, most people who've worked there for any period of time, they leave their phones in their cars or in their lockers. Because if you have your phone on you, it's in your pocket, maybe 10 times a day or 20 times a day or 100 times a day, you're going to get a text. And all that text says is help. Just the word help, over and over again. And there's no name attached, there's no number, it's just a text like from nowhere. So this creeps everybody out. Like, nobody likes this. But most people work at this store, because they need the money. It's a retail job, and it's like, all right, well, I don't like this, but, I need to have something to make money, so this is what I've got right now. And that is the situation for Amy. Amy is the main character in this book. She's worked at this store for 2 years, and she would really like to get away. She wants to go and take the manager's test, so then she would finally, be paid better, and she could work at a different store. That's the other appeal of becoming a manager. But she took the test once, she didn't pass that time, so now she's been studying and she wants to take it again. But before she can do that, one day she gets to work, and there is Basil, and he is her supervisor. And Amy thinks, oh no, I'm gonna get fired before I can take the manager's test again. But he says, hey, come to my office, we gotta talk, and that seems like a bad sign. But once they get to his office, there is Ruth Ann. And Ruth Ann is the employee that everyone loves. She's worked at the store the longest, and she brings in treats for everybody's birthday, and she just genuinely likes this job. The creepy stuff, She doesn't let that faze her. She's just like, no, I love working at this store. I love, the furniture. I've furnished my house with these things. I think this place is great. So Amy's thinking when she sees Ruth Ann, okay, maybe I'm not in trouble, because if Ruth Ann's here, it's probably okay, but what's going on? And Basil, the manager, says, okay, so corporate office has heard some reports about the things that have been going on at the store. Not just from us. I mean, we have to report damaged merchandise, but there's also this stuff online about the store being haunted. And they don't love that. Like, it's not making people want to come and buy furniture at our store. So we need to figure this out. What I'm proposing is tonight, the three of us will stay in the store overnight and try and figure out what's going on. Now, if you've ever seen a horror movie, you probably think that sounds like a terrible idea. And that's what Amy thinks. And she's like, well, wait a minute. No, I don't think we should do that. Well, Basil explains, look, the problem so far is we haven't been able to catch anybody on the security cameras. And part of the reason for this is not a store that's open 24 hours a day. This is like a 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. situation. So every night at like 2 a.m., the lights all go down in the warehouse and in like the display areas. So that's when we think stuff is happening. Like we think either somebody who works here is coming in and like doing a weird prank thing, or somebody outside has like gotten a key card and they're getting in, and we need to put a stop to this. Like, we can't just keep losing merchandise. We need to catch this person so the vandalism stops. Well, again, Amy really doesn't think this sounds like a good idea because it's not. And Basil knows, hey, I realize this is a weird, unusual, creepy situation, but look, I will make sure, if you work tonight, I will make sure you get into the manager's course. Like, I will write you a letter of recommendation. I mean, you can go and like start doing the class like as soon as tomorrow. Literally, I can get you in and you won't even ever have to come back to this store again. Like, you won't have to work here anymore. I know this place creeps you out. It creeps me out too, but that's why I want to get to the bottom of this. And she's also going to get paid overtime. And like Amy, she needs to pay her rent. She's got bills due. So she knows, okay, like I kind of have to say yes. I really don't want to, but I don't see any other solution to my problems. So yes, but this seems like a bad idea. Well, Ruth Ann, she says yes. I mean, she's a team player. She's like, yeah, this sounds kind of fun. Ooh, like a horror movie, like a mystery where they're in the haunted house. So what happens is Amy works part of the day, then she goes out to her car, takes a nap, and comes back in right before closing. And Ruth Ann and Basil, they're in the office and they're looking at the security cameras. All the lights are still on. Like, they can't see anything yet, and they don't really expect anything to happen until it gets dark in the store when people can do things without being seen or caught on camera. So after a while, Amy's getting kind of just bored with Basil. Like, he's got like some unwanted advice, like, hey, Amy, you'd be a better employee if you just did this, this, and this. Amy's like, okay, I'm gonna go to the restroom. I'll be back. So she goes to the restroom, and when she goes, she sees this. All over the walls, all over the bathroom, every square foot. Now, the problem with this, I mean, this is creepy, but the biggest problem here is whenever you have a job, one thing that you will learn real quick is before you close, you always check the bathrooms, because sometimes, you don't want to lock somebody in and set the alarm and have them set it off when they leave the bathroom. And Amy knows that, okay, the store only closed about an hour ago. Somebody would have had to do all this in an hour. Otherwise, we would have had a report about the bathroom being full of weird writing. Nobody could do all of this in an hour, not one person. That's impossible. So Amy goes back to Basil and Ruth Ann and says, hey, come check out the bathroom. And they go, and sure enough, the bathroom, like, it's still there. The writing hasn't disappeared like the hallways do. And Basil's like, okay, well, let's take a bunch of photos with our phones. And I mean, this means they're here. The people who've been doing this must be in the building right now. Let's go down into the warehouse and like start looking for them. So they're looking around, and I mean, Amy's got her phone, and you know, Basil does the thing. And even he knows, he's like, look, I hate to say this, I hate to be the person who does this, but this is a big store. Like, it would be a lot more efficient if we would split up to cover more ground. And Amy's like, yeah, sure, that's fine. So Basil and Ruth Ann and Amy, they go in different directions. And as soon as Amy is by herself and a little away from her boss, she calls the police. Because her whole thing is, okay, like, I know the store doesn't want to get the police involved, but this seems super unsafe. I'm going to call them and be like, hey, this is what's happening. So she calls them and says, look, we think there's somebody in our store. We don't know if they've broken in or what's going on, but they left all this weird writing on the walls, and I think you should come, like, just come check this out. So the police are like, all right, yeah, that's fine. We'll be there in a few minutes. But then they call her back a few minutes later and say, hey, where is your store located? And Amy's like, what do you mean? It's the giant store that says Orsk in huge letters and bright lights. It's right off the highway. You can't miss it. So the police say, okay, you know, we must have gotten lost somehow. We'll be there soon. Well, they keep calling her back because somehow they're just hopelessly lost. They can't find the store. They don't know where it is. And Amy's battery's getting kind of low. And what has happened while this is going on is time is passing, and pretty soon it gets to the time of night where all the lights go down every night. And what Amy and her coworkers discover is that, sure enough, they're not alone in the store. There are other people in the store, but most of them are not still alive. So what has happened, Amy and Basil and Ruth Ann discover, basically the store was built on what used to be a prison. And the people who died there have decided, we can never leave. Now you can't leave either. So to kind of wrap up, this whole furniture store catalog thing, it comes up throughout the book. So like at the start, you know, oh, look, here's a sofa for your home or office. And it's just like, it seems this sort of just, oh, you know, that's a fun, quirky thing for the book that, you know, it's in keeping with the theme. Like, okay, you know, some tables, chairs, whatever. But as the story continues, what happens is the furniture gets more and more ominous. So by the end, you have things like, look, here's a treadmill that you can run on until you die. So it's a lot of fun. I'm happy to say, like, they talked about for a while making this into a TV show, and I don't know how that would have worked exactly. But now, supposedly, they have made a movie. Like, I don't know when it's coming, obviously, because, you know, everything is in flux. But someday, we'll be able to see this as a movie. But until then, you can check out the book, you can read it or listen to it. It's available on our various ebook apps. I know it's an audiobook on Hoopla, and then you can read it on maybe Access 360 or Libby. So, check it out. And thank you for watching. I will see you again soon.